I'm sorry for calling you at such a time.
That's okay, but what's going on?
Actually, the doctor said he needs to talk to you alone.
Doctor, what is it?
It's about your father. It might involve your family.
What? I was visiting my father, who was hospitalized due to diabetes, along with my mother and brother's family. However, I was the only one called by the doctor. As I listened to the doctor, I trembled with shock at the overwhelming information he shared.
If you have any evidence to support what I'm telling you, I recommend contacting the police. If necessary, I will also testify.
I'll help too. Do you have any evidence?
Evidence? I can't think of anything.
Then try to find something.
Easier said than done. Unable to think of any way to handle what the doctor had told me, I slowly returned to my father's hospital room. Dad. Actually, just now.
If that's the case.
After I confided in my father about what the doctor had said, we found a solution. I couldn't forgive my family. To save my father from the rest of the family, I rushed to the police. I am 32 years old, working part-time, and I married my husband John 4 years ago. Due to his job, we've been living on the West Coast for about 3 years now. My parents live in the Midwest, so I only get to see them during the summer holidays and Christmas. The distance isn't the only reason I can't visit home often. Until now, my son Alex was very young. But now that Alex is 3 years old and attending preschool, it's becoming easier to plan trips back home. What did you do at preschool today?
I ran races with my friends.
With Alex growing up a bit, it looks like I'll be able to visit my parents more frequently. Maybe I'll go home for Easter this year. One day, while I was thinking about these plans, I got a call from my mom, Kelly. Hello? What's up?
Well, I just wanted to let you know that your dad is planning to retire.
Dad is only 63, right? Isn't it a bit early for retirement? Did he get injured in an accident or something?
No, it's not that. You know he's had diabetes for a while now. Lately, his symptoms have gotten a bit worse. His hands and feet are tingling, and his vision is blurry. Since his job is physically demanding, he decided to retire early to avoid any accidents that could cause trouble for others.
Is Dad okay?
His symptoms have worsened a bit, but they're not affecting his daily life too much. Don't worry.
The hospital said that as long as he continues his treatment, he can keep working, right?
Yes, but you know your dad. He doesn't want to cause any inconvenience to anyone. So, I think he decided to retire early.
That sounds like Dad. Even if he retires, it won't cause any issues with living expenses, right?
I'm still working part-time, and Tony and Maria are living with us, so we'll be fine.
Tony is my brother, and Maria is his wife. Since my brother and his wife live with my parents, I don't have to worry about my parents' well-being even if my dad stops working. However, the fact that his diabetes has worsened to the point where he decided to retire makes me concerned. I decided to visit home to check on him. The weekend after my mother called, I left Alex with John and headed to my parents' house. I'm home.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. It's been since Christmas, hasn't it?
You're here to check on your father, right? I told you not to worry so much. You're such a worrywart.
When I arrived home, my mom, My brother and his wife greeted me at the entrance. "Where's Dad?"
He's resting in his room because of his legs. Go ahead and say hi.
I placed my luggage by the door and quickly walked to my father's room. "Dad, I'm home."
Oh, welcome back. You came to check on me, right? As you can see, I'm fine.
Dad, sitting in a floor chair, flexed his biceps. His muscular arms, built from years of labor, didn't look like they belonged to someone over 60. His expression was cheerful, just as Mom had said, making me feel I had worried too much. But then,
Here we go.
"You seem to have a hard time standing up."
Just a little when I get up. But I'm fine walking.
He headed to the bathroom, and I watched him walk. Though he claimed it was only hard to stand, his gait was awkward. He also seemed to struggle to grip things with his hands.
Can you hand me the TV remote?
"Sure."
Oops. Sorry, my hand slipped. Could you pick that up for me?
Dad, who had worked in a physical job, had always been robust and reliable. Seeing him like this now made me feel a pang of sadness. After chatting with Dad for a while, I went to the living room to talk to my mom and my brother's family. "Mom, Dad's condition seems worse than I thought, doesn't it?"
The doctor said he's still okay, so you don't need to worry so much. You really are a worrywart. But you're right, Dad's "I'm fine" might not be entirely true. He says he's fine but has trouble walking.
Dad probably doesn't want to worry or burden anyone, so he might not be saying how hard it really is for him.
That could be. But he gets regular checkups at the hospital, so you don't need to worry. If it becomes too much for him, he'll speak up.
Is that really okay?
Oh, by the way, we might run into Carol at the hospital.
Carol? Oh right, she works as a nurse there. Despite my concerns, Mom didn't seem as worried about Dad's health. My brother and his wife also didn't seem particularly worried, judging by their reactions during my conversation with Mom. "Dad, how about a walk nearby? It must be stifling to stay inside all the time."
Oh, you'll take me out?
After talking with Mom, I went back to Dad and invited him for a walk. He seemed happy, and I thought it was because he was glad to go out with me after a long time, but it seemed to be more than that.
Your mom and Tony have been telling me not to go out alone because they're worried.
So, does Maria usually take you for walks?
No, everyone's busy with work and other things, so I just walk around the yard.
What? So you're home all day? I felt a surge of anger. Dad, who had always been active due to his job, couldn't stand not moving around. Mom and my brother's family knew this well. Yet, they told him not to go out and didn't even accompany him on walks. After returning home from the walk, I confronted my mom and brother's family. "Is it true you don't even take Dad out for walks?"
We're busy too, you know. We can't take him out for walks all the time.
You know he gets restless if he doesn't move around.
But he hasn't said anything about wanting to go out.
That's because he doesn't want to be a burden on everyone.
Look, I don't know what you think after taking Dad for a walk today, but it's easy to take him for a walk when you just happen to be visiting. Taking care of Dad involves more than just walks. We have our own struggles too. Or are you saying you'll come here every day to take him out for a walk?
My brother was right. Living far away and not being there daily, I couldn't tell my mom and brother's family how to manage things. unable to argue back, I had to relent. I stayed at my parents' house for one night and returned home the next day. Thank you for taking care of Alex yesterday.
It's fine. I was off work anyway. How's your dad?
Well, he seemed better than I expected, I guess. For a moment, I debated whether to tell John about Dad being stuck at home all day. But since there was still a lot I didn't know, I decided not to mention it just yet. That night, I remembered my conversation with my mom about Carol, a friend who works at the hospital. I decided to send her a message after a long time. Hey, it's been a while. I heard from my mom that you work at the hospital where my dad goes. I visited home yesterday, and it made me think of you, so I decided to reach out. Carol replied almost immediately.
Long time no see. I've been thinking about messaging you for a while.
Why? Since I replied quickly, our conversation continued in real time.
I've been worried that your mom and the others might be planning something scary.
Did something happen?
They keep asking really frightening questions like, what's the mortality rate for diabetes, and how long does he have left to live? They ask all kinds of other questions too.
That sounds like they're just concerned about Dad.
The words could be taken that way, but it's more about their expressions and the atmosphere when they ask. It feels off, unsettling. I was worried that you might share their intentions, so I hesitated to reach out.
Why did you decide to tell me you found their behavior suspicious?
I guess it was the tone of your first message. It seemed like you didn't know anything. Plus, when I thought about it, I couldn't imagine you being involved in anything shady.
Thanks for trusting me. I also felt something was off with my mom and brother's family. But it's hard to accuse them based on a feeling.
True, but I'll let you know if I find out anything. Keep me posted if you learn anything too.
It seemed I wasn't the only one who found my mom and brother's family's behavior odd. We agreed to keep each other informed about any new developments. However, as ordinary people without the skills of police or detectives, we couldn't conduct any proper investigation. 6 months passed without any significant developments. I had planned to visit home for Easter, but due to my husband's work, I couldn't make the trip. Still, I kept in regular contact with my mom and kept up with my dad's condition. How's Dad doing?
Lately, his condition has been getting worse. It's become very difficult for him to walk, and sometimes we have to support him around the house.
What about his hands or other symptoms?
The numbness in his hands is getting worse too. With all of us working, it's becoming really hard to manage everything at home. We're all talking about reaching our limit. It might actually be better if he developed one of those complications.
Hey! How can you say such a thing? Diabetes has 3 major complications, which are covered by our insurance as specified diseases, allowing us to use long-term care services. That would reduce the burden on my mom and the others. Still, wishing for complications just to ease their burden was terrifying. I could now understand the unsettling atmosphere Carol had mentioned. Sometime later, I received a call from my mom.
Hello, try to stay calm. Your dad might need to have his leg amputated.
What? His leg? It's not uncommon for diabetics to lose a limb. I knew my dad had symptoms in his leg, so I had thought it might happen someday. But to have my fears become reality was shocking. I'm coming home.
It's not definite yet. Besides, you'll be coming home soon for summer vacation, right?
But
you're such a worrywart. He'll be fine.
Is worrying about the possibility of an amputation really just being a worrywart? What does she mean by fine? And why did her voice sound brighter than before when we talked about this? The unease I felt towards my mom was now turning into distrust. As usual, my home visit ended up being during the summer vacation. With so many concerns about my dad's diabetes and the conversation I had with my friend, I decided to leave my child with my husband and go alone this time. I'm home.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. It's been since you last came to check on Dad, hasn't it?
You came to see your dad, right? Do you want to go to the hospital right away or rest for a bit first?
I want to go to the hospital right away. Dad's condition had worsened, and he had been hospitalized recently. As my mom, brother, his wife, and I headed to the hospital to see my dad, I couldn't help but notice that their expressions were bright. Aren't they worried about Dad?
Oh, everyone's here.
Dad. Are you okay?
I'm fine, as you can see.
Dad lay on the bed and flexed his arm muscles. His expression was cheerful, and he seemed more energetic than I had anticipated. However, his arm muscles were noticeably smaller than before. They might need to amputate your leg, right? How's your leg feeling?
It's not that bad. They're exaggerating about cutting off my leg, aren't they? I'll probably be fine. Besides, if they do cut it, I won't have to worry about athlete's feet anymore, so it might not be all bad. Ah.
Everyone laughed at Dad's joke, but I couldn't bring myself to laugh sincerely. Dad probably wasn't entirely serious either. As we continued chatting as a family for a while, a message came to my phone. I casually checked it. It was from Carol. Curious about the message, I discreetly stepped back and checked behind my mom and brother.
Come out secretly from your family. Waiting in the lobby.
The message clearly indicated that Carol had something important to tell me. I'll just quickly use the restroom. I lied and stepped out alone from the hospital room, heading towards the lobby where Carol was waiting. I went to the lobby where Carol was waiting with a man.
Sorry for calling you out like this, especially at a time like this.
It's okay, but what's going on?
Actually, the doctor has something to discuss with you privately.
The man with Carol was the doctor in charge of my father. Doctor, what is it?
It's about your father. There's a possibility that your family, specifically your mother, brother, and his wife might be responsible for worsening your father's condition, his legs.
What? What do you mean?
Oh, I apologize. It was rude of me to jump to culprit with your family. I'm sorry. This is purely speculative, so I wanted to discuss it with you as an extension of our conversation earlier. I believe there might be something your family did that contributed to the deterioration of your father's legs, perhaps intentionally. Normally, doctors shouldn't delve into family matters like this, but after hearing from Carol, I felt it was best to inform you.
But surely, would my family really do something like that?
If you have any evidence to support what I'm saying, I would recommend contacting the police. If needed, I can testify as well.
I'll help too. Do you have any evidence?
Evidence. I can't think of anything.
Then let's find something. The doctor has noted down reasons and potential evidence suggesting your father's condition was deliberately worsened. I've summarized them in notes. Take these.
Even if you say that. I never imagined something like this would happen all of a sudden. The doctor's revelation shook me to the core. Could it be true that my family had deliberately worsened my father's condition to the point where amputation might be necessary? I was confused and overwhelmed. However, if this was true, I couldn't leave my father in such a situation. Determined, I decided to return to the hospital room.
Oh, you took a while.
Yeah, I got a bit lost finding the restroom.
Should we head back soon?
Yes, we shouldn't overstay. It might strain my father-in-law.
I wanted to stay a bit longer since I came all this way. Dad, is that okay?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay then. I'll grab a quick dinner outside and take a taxi home. Don't worry about me.
All right. Take care of your dad for us.
My mother, brother and his wife left the hospital room, leaving just my father and me. After a few seconds of silence, I decided to tell my father about what the doctor had said. Dad. Please listen carefully. The doctor suggested that Mom, Tony and Maria might have intentionally caused your leg condition to worsen.
I had a feeling.
You knew?
Sort of.
Why didn't you say anything?
I'm the one causing trouble.
That's not true at all. We're family, Dad. When someone is in trouble, you rely on and support each other. They're wrong. If Mom and the others aren't supporting you, then I will.
You?
Carol gave me some notes. Let's go over them together. The notes contained various details, but to expose my family's wrongdoing, I needed concrete evidence. Words alone wouldn't convince the police. I felt helpless, like an ordinary person without the skills of a detective or the authority of the police. Something my father had done just before his hospitalization was a potential breakthrough.
Hey, check around the back garden's eaves. I installed a camera there.
A camera? Why?
I always leave my sandals out there, and I kept finding small stones in them, which kept hurting my feet. Plus, the vegetable garden was sometimes tampered with. Could have been crows or weasels or something. I asked a tech-savvy neighbor to install it.
Do my mom and the others know about the camera?
I don't think so. It was my personal expense, so Mom and the others might not even know about it. We set it up when none of us were at work, and if they find anything, they should let me know.
Has the footage been checked?
Nope. I don't really understand machines, so I never checked it. I heard the camera records onto a card, but it's high up, so I couldn't reach it with my bad leg. In the end, it's just sitting there since installation.
Got it. I'll check that camera. I listened to my father's story and immediately returned home.
Welcome back. You're earlier than I thought.
We're about to have dinner now, but did you say you'll eat out? There's nothing prepared for you.
No, it's okay. I'll be going out again soon, so don't worry about me. Please go ahead and have dinner together. I headed to the backyard and walked along, looking under the eaves. There it is. This camera. The camera was facing towards the garden, capturing the area near where the sandals were placed outside and the vegetable garden beyond. I fetched a ladder from the shed, retrieved the SD card from the camera, and checked its contents. I was worried if there would be any footage left since it had been left there untouched, but the camera was motion activated, recording only when something moved within its view. Surprisingly, there was plenty of free space on the card despite being left unattended. The footage showed a badger messing up the vegetable garden. The damage to the garden seemed unrelated to the current issue. However, the footage also captured moments where my mother and the others seemed to be tampering with the sandals. This could serve as evidence. I grabbed the SD card and incidentally took the antifungal medicine my father used, then rushed to the police station without saying a word to my mother and the others. When I explained everything to the police, we first went to the hospital together and then headed to my parents' house. "Well, could you wait here for a moment?"
Understood.
I asked the police to wait near the entrance, and I entered the house alone. I'm back.
Where were you? We were worried sick.
Yeah, if you were going to be late, you should have at least called.
I didn't get any reply to my texts, so we started worrying that something happened to you.
I'm sorry. I had something to take care of and then went back to the hospital.
Well, I'm just glad you're back safely. Anyway, come inside.
Wait. Since all three of you are here, please listen to me.
What is it?
Anticipating the impending confrontation, I took a deep breath to steady myself. It was you, Mom, and you guys, who caused Dad's feet to deteriorate like that.
What's gotten into you? Why are you saying such nonsense all of a sudden?
Why would we do something like that?
Then, can you look at this? I showed them the screen of my phone. On the screen was a screenshot from the camera footage showing Mom putting pebbles into the sandals. There are also images of Maria and Tony doing the same thing.
There was a camera? I didn't notice it. But what does this prove?
Dad told me about it. There were pebbles in the sandals, causing him frequent injuries. It wasn't just the pebbles. Dad mentioned that his foot was hurt several times by dropping something. And this. I took out Dad's shoes from the shoebox by the entrance. These are clearly smaller than Dad's foot size, right? Also, this antifungal medicine Dad used, is this really antifungal medicine? It has a light minty smell. Did you swap the contents?
What are you trying to say?
Everything I just mentioned goes against proper foot care for diabetes patients, right?
So what? Are you accusing us of deliberately worsening Dad's condition? Stop making baseless accusations.
It's not baseless. Remember when Carol told you about the mortality rate of diabetes patients with amputations within 5 years? And you suddenly asked about foot care methods? Despite knowing the correct way to care for his feet, why did you do the opposite? The doctor also mentioned suspicious injuries increasing on Dad's foot and how his condition was deteriorating.
Looks like you have enough evidence and testimonies. Yes, we wanted your father's foot to get worse quickly,
she said with a laugh. Realizing I was certain they were responsible for my father's deteriorating condition, my mother seemed to become defiant. Seeing her attitude, my brother and his wife also began to act defiant.
We're fine as long as he dies soon and leaves us the money.
Exactly. It's easier for us if we don't have to take care of him.
and if he starts to lose his mind, it'll be even more troublesome. So, if he loses a leg, it might be easier to dump him in a facility, right?
I hadn't thought I could say anything to them because I didn't live with Dad. However, this was too much. I struggled to contain my rising anger. But this was not my job from here on out. You can come in now.
Huh?
Why are the police here?
We've heard everything. We'd like you to come with us for further questioning.
All that conversation earlier was just a joke.
Maria attempted to make excuses, but it was futile. The three of them were taken away by the police. With this, it seemed like I would finally be able to save Dad. Later on, Mom and the others were arrested for assault. However, they were not prosecuted because the causal link between their actions and Dad's deteriorating condition, which hadn't yet resulted in amputation, couldn't be established. For me, though, it wasn't crucial that they were found guilty. The fact remained that they had harmed Dad and were arrested for it. Now, I could smoothly take Dad into my care. Before being taken by the police, Mom had already discussed what would happen to Dad's money after he passed away. Had things not unfolded as they did, and had I simply asked to take care of him, they might have accused me of just wanting to keep Dad's money to myself. These were people who had considered taking Dad's life for money, so things could have spiraled into a messy and tumultuous situation. Fortunately, Dad avoided amputation and decided to live with us after discussing it with my husband. He still thinks he might be a burden if he stays home all the time, so he uses day services. Despite us repeatedly saying it's not a bother, Dad himself insisted on using day services to avoid inconveniencing others. It's his decision, and it's very much like Dad to make it himself, so we let him do as he pleases. Alex seems happy to live with Grandpa, and he's always sticking close to him. Seeing Dad and Alex interacting happily, I truly feel relieved that I was able to rescue them from Mom and the others. How did you find this story? If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing to the channel. Until next time.
Grandma, help me!
Suddenly, in the middle of the night, I heard the voice of a child at the front door. Standing there was my 13-year-old granddaughter, her clothes in tatters. What on earth happened? I hurriedly brought her inside, where she was trembling uncontrollably. As I listened to her story, she revealed one terrifying fact after another. Anger surged within me at what I heard, and I decided to storm into my son and daughter-in-law's house with a group of companions. Faced with the large group seeking revenge, my son and his wife turned pale. Now, let the punishment begin. I lost my husband shortly after giving birth to my son, Jason, and had raised him all by myself ever since. Even now, at 57, I continue working at the cafeteria that hired me as a single mother, where everyone calls me the lunch lady.
Grandma, let's cook again today.
My granddaughter Emma would come running to my house after school, out of breath. With her long black hair flowing behind her, her tall and slender figure, and a perfectly straight nose, she looked like a model. When she smiled, her cat-like eyes became her charming feature. She was kind-hearted and a granddaughter I was proud of, but the truth is, Emma and I aren't related by blood. My son and his wife lived just a 10-minute walk from my house, having married a year ago. It was Jason's first time having a family, but his wife, Amy, had been married before. Yes, my granddaughter is Amy's daughter from her previous marriage. Oh, welcome. Did you let your parents know before coming?
Yeah. They're both at work, but I sent them a message, so it's fine.
When I called out to Emma as she arrived, she cheerfully responded while taking off her shoes at the entrance. It was thanks to cooking that we became this close. When my son first got married, my granddaughter seemed to be avoiding me, not even meeting my gaze. I understood, given how complicated the family situation was. So, I decided not to visit Jason's house and quietly watched over things from a distance. However, 3 months after my son got married, Emma came to visit me.
Grandmother, could you teach me how to cook?
She asked me in such a formal tone that I couldn't help but chuckle. As I later found out, Amy, my daughter-in-law, had also worked full-time in her previous marriage, and Emma had been the one taking care of the household chores. One day, she overheard Jason say,
My mom works in a university cafeteria, so she's practically a professional cook.
That's what prompted Emma to come to me as a kind of apprentice. Since then, we began cooking dinner together every 2 weeks. Back then, she used to call me grandmother, but now it's grandma. I'm so glad she's become fond of me. I squinted my eyes as I recalled that day.
Hey, Grandma. Today's menu is fried chicken, right? I'm scared of frying things because the oil splatters. I wonder if I can do it well.
Actually, I know a great trick for that.
Really? Tell me.
We laughed and chatted as we headed to the kitchen. An hour later, we had made a whole spread of dishes, not just fried chicken. Emma, have you lost weight again? As she arranged the meal on the living room table, her back seemed even thinner than before. I had noticed over time that she was losing weight each time I saw her. But whenever we cooked and ate dinner together, Emma would eat with great appetite. You're not getting enough food every day, are you? Jason's not very attentive. I muttered in an irritated tone as I served her another helping. She was quiet for a moment but soon smiled.
I'm the one doing the cooking, and I eat properly.
Oh, right. You're the one serving the food, so I bet you sneakily cut down on the stuff you don't like, huh? I chuckled and winked at her. She nodded slightly and returned a small smile. You're still growing, so it makes sense that what you eat goes into your height, not your width. I thought of the students at the cafeteria where I worked. Some came back for seconds and thirds. Some cried at graduation because they wouldn't be able to eat my food anymore, and some still came back even after graduating. They all grew taller or built muscle. They really grew up. I looked at my granddaughter closely again. Her figure, more mature than most adults, was stunning, and I had heard she'd been using her height to play basketball since elementary school. But when her parents remarried, and she entered middle school, Emma quit, saying she had no talent. At the time, I called my son and said, Emma might have quit her club because she's holding herself back, so make sure to be considerate. Jason, sounding unsure, mumbled,
I'm not really good at talking about that stuff.
And then, to my surprise, he added,
Emma's gotten too feminine, and it's troubling.
I was shocked and fell silent over the phone, and sensing that, Jason quickly corrected himself.
I mean, she looks too much like her mother.
I was relieved when I heard that, as if it happened just yesterday. Well, I guess there's no way anything inappropriate could happen with a 13-year-old. I muttered to myself as I picked at the fried chicken with my granddaughter. At that moment, I had no idea. I had no idea that something terrifying had already begun. About a week after the day Emma and I cooked together.
Grandma, help me.
Late at night, my granddaughter came to my house with her clothes torn to shreds. What happened? Just come inside for now. Shocked by the sight before me, I hugged her tightly. Once I led her to the living room, she collapsed onto the sofa, seemingly relieved.
Dad.
Her voice trembled as she whispered, her eyes filled with tears. As she slowly revealed the horrifying truth, anger clouded my mind. How could he do such a terrible thing? I won't forgive him. I wanted to call the police right away, but unfortunately, there was no evidence. However, there was no way I could just leave my granddaughter in tears. Emma, leave it to Grandma. I'll make sure to teach him a lesson. With that, I decided to seek revenge using some connections I had. About 30 minutes later, my phone rang.
Do you know where Emma is? She's not at home.
Though I was furious, I pretended to stay calm. Oh. Did she go out this late? Have you asked her friends? I played innocent, acting as if it was the first I'd heard of it.
Yeah. She's been difficult lately, going through a rebellious phase. If she comes to your place, let me know.
She's at that age where she's defiant. Please don't take anything she says too seriously.
In the middle of the conversation, Amy cut in, her voice tense with worry. I understand. It's just her age. Kids go through these things. Hearing this, my son and his wife, thinking I knew nothing, sounded relieved as they ended the call. I know exactly what you've done to my granddaughter. Immediately, I contacted one of my friends and began gathering evidence. Now, it's time for some serious payback. 4 days later, on a slightly chilly morning, I called my son to let him know that Emma had been found and went to see him.
Mom! Thank you for finding Emma. Wait, what?
At the entrance, Jason's face showed confusion as he saw me standing there, expressionless, holding a paper bag. Amy frowned too, but led me into the living room. As I sat at the table, I glared sharply at both of them. Emma said she never wants to see you two again. My cold words made their eyes widen in shock.
What? What did she tell you?
Though Jason spoke with anger in his voice, I could sense the unease behind it, as only a mother could. She quit basketball because of you too, didn't she? You told her you wouldn't pay for the club fees of a stepchild, didn't you?
Oh, so that's what this is about, basketball.
He clearly looked relieved and even let out a chuckle.
She's been all over the place lately, you know? First, she says she wants to play, then she changes her mind. She never even submitted the form to join.
Amy leaned forward as she spoke, her small frame contrasting with Emma's tall one. So, you're saying Emma's lying?
Of course she is. Who would do something terrible to such a sweet kid?
When he said sweet kid, I twitched, my eyebrows raising. Are you also saying the part about not feeding her properly is a lie? When I shot back, They both briefly averted their eyes.
Well, maybe she just said that to get attention, you know, with her rebellious phase and all.
Amy, clearly flustered, kept repeating the phrase rebellious phase. Like losing 7 kilos is something that just happens. I pulled some documents from the paper bag and slammed them onto the table. Laid out before them were records of Emma's physical exams from 5th grade, 6th grade, and her first year of middle school. While her height had increased during this time, her weight had actually dropped 7 kilos less than when she was in 5th grade. I then took out Emma's diary from the bag, filled with horrifying entries. One read, "I only get 1 meal a day," and another, "Since I make my own lunch, I can only use scraps. But this is all I have to eat, my lifeline." I began reading these entries aloud to Jason and Amy. You let her handle all the cooking. And when she snuck a bite of food out of hunger, you punished her by not feeding her for 3 days? I pointed to specific parts of the diary as I shouted at them. One passage, written in tear-blurred ink, said, "I can't even take 1 bite of the delicious food in front of me."
Wait a minute, Mom. Where did you get all this?
Sweat poured down Jason's face as he tried to interrupt me. From your house, of course. 3 days ago, Emma gave me the house key, and I came over while you two were at work.
What? Taking things from someone's home without permission, even if you're family, is just wrong. It's so low class.
Amy tried to deflect by calling me a thief. Parents who don't feed their child have no right to talk about family. I roared, and Amy fell silent, her face pale as a ghost. I had been staying away from this house because you have a stepchild of your own. Because of that, I didn't notice my granddaughter's suffering sooner. I recalled Emma's painfully thin arms, and my chest ached. She could have told me at any time, but she kept quiet, thinking that if she endured it, her mom would be happy. And you called that a rebellious phase? Don't be ridiculous. My lips quivered with a mixture of sorrow and anger, my voice shaking. I was furious at myself for not saving her sooner.
Look, blended families are complicated. Mom, you've been a carefree single mother with just you and me. You wouldn't understand how tough it is.
Exactly. And Emma's freakishly tall, just like my ex-husband. That nose, those cat eyes. Watching your child resemble someone you absolutely hate. It makes my skin crawl.
Amy's mock vomiting made my heart sink.
To be honest, I've never been interested in raising another man's child either.
It seemed Jason, following Amy's lead, let his true feelings slip. I couldn't believe my ears. Their words made me feel faint. So you ripped my granddaughter's clothes and did something terrible to her because she's not your own child? Do you think that makes it okay?
Her clothes? Ah. They just got caught on something and tore. I mean, I wasn't having any inappropriate thoughts.
Jason stammered, speaking quickly as soon as the topic of her clothes came up.
That's just a gross misunderstanding. Or maybe you're just frustrated.
Amy sneered, and Jason chuckled nervously alongside her.
Look, I'm trying my best to raise someone else's kid. Families go through tough times, and sometimes clothes accidentally tear, right?
Exactly. Emma said she wants me to be happy. Things will get better eventually. So just keep quiet and let us handle it like you've been doing.
Amy heavily emphasized keep quiet, and Jason nodded in agreement. Despite all the evidence I had laid out, they continued to play dumb. My patience snapped. Then explain this. I pulled out a recorder from the paper bag and pressed play. Immediately, Amy's voice, followed by a sigh, could be heard.
I just want to have a child with you.
Then Jason's complaint.
It's hard to think about having our own kid with Emma's middle school tuition weighing us down.
And then, in a low, chilling voice, Jason added,
I was going to make it look like she was attacked by a robber and get rid of her, but she escaped.
Amy's voice followed.
Next time we find her, she's definitely going to the other side.
When she came to my house that night, her clothes were torn to make it look like an attack. You two were trying to end her life. I slammed my fist on the table and leaned in toward the now panicking pair. That day, my tearful granddaughter had confessed that Jason had torn her clothes in a fit of rage, and Amy, instead of helping, had readied a knife. Sensing her life was in danger, Emma had taken advantage of a moment when Jason wasn't looking to escape and run to my house, barely making it out alive. You two won't get away with this. I glared at Jason and Amy, my eyes burning with rage.
This conversation, I don't remember anything like it.
No! Mom, maybe you've mistaken this for some TV show recording or something.
Their voices had shrunk, knowing how weak their excuses were. Of course not. When I came to get my diary 3 days ago, I planted a bug. To throw you both in jail. As I proudly declared this, their faces immediately grew tense.
Are you seriously thinking of calling the police?
Amy glared up at me, her voice low. Jason glanced at Amy, and she gave a small, resolute nod. Then suddenly,
Get rid of the old hag before Emma!
Jason shot up from his seat with a loud bang, rounded the table, and lunged at me. Ah! I screamed, and the next moment, Nancy, a voice shouted as the sound of heavy footsteps echoed from the entrance. Yes. My name is Nancy. As the thunderous noise closed in like a landslide, Jason froze in shock, and a group of strong men barged into the living room.
Protect Nancy. Restrain them, but don't hurt them.
Someone shouted, and the others responded loudly, Yes, sir. In no time, Jason and Amy were pinned to the floor.
Hey! Who the hell are you?
How many of you are there?
Surrounded by muscular men, the two were pale with fear. Ignoring them, one of the young men who had been shouting orders ran up to me.
Are you all right?
Thank you. I'm so glad I asked you for help. You can always count on former students. You see, I work at the cafeteria of a prestigious sports university that produces professional athletes, and these bodybuilder-like men were alumni. Many of the students grew fond of me for looking after them during their tough training, and even after graduation, we stayed in touch. When I asked one of the graduates, who had become a lawyer, for help, a whole group of them gathered. They helped with everything, from court preparations, to planting the bug, to finding a counselor to heal my granddaughter's emotional wounds. On the day I confronted Jason, Many of them took time off work to accompany me, saying,
"We'll come along, just in case."
And when they heard the sounds from my hidden radio, realizing I was in danger, they stormed in from the entrance.
What the hell? You're just cafeteria staff.
Let go of me! As soon as they realized their captors were just former students, the two began to scream and complain. Then, one of the men flashed his lawyer badge.
"We've got people well versed in law, strong arms, and even some military personnel."
He leaned down and gave them a cold smile. At the mention of the military, Jason and Amy turned pale and started trembling. "Unlike you two, we don't do anything dangerous." I sighed as I said this, and they seemed to relax a bit. But this wasn't the end. However, you'll be making amends. You'll pay $20,000 in damages for my grandchild, and $5,500 for child support. I'm also consulting with a lawyer about transferring custody to me. I declared firmly to my son and his wife, who were still pinned to the floor.
What?
Jason's voice cracked at the sudden demand for such a large sum of money. But the men holding them down said things like,
"This guy doesn't deserve to be a parent."
Or,
"Let's make sure she wins custody."
Nancy! This is too much. We're just taking our first steps as a family. How can you do this?
I admit, I didn't know how to raise a kid, and I made some mistakes. But please, watch over our family.
Crawling on the floor, they kept apologizing, repeating the word family. Really? You made the kid do housework, starved them, didn't let them join any clubs, and in the end, tried to get rid of them because they were in your way. That's your idea of family? I snorted and gave Jason and Amy a look of pure contempt. The lawyer, one of the alumni, who had been listening, added with a sharp tone,
They even tried to get rid of Nancy. Unbelievable.
The other alumni chimed in,
"You're a million years too early to be talking about family."
and
"I'll whip you into shape myself."
their deep, authoritative voices boomed, scolding my son and daughter-in-law. Overwhelmed by the terrifying men surrounding them, the two began sobbing uncontrollably. Just as the graduates were shaking their heads in disgust, saying, "What a pitiful sight," the police, whom they had called before storming in, arrived. "Repent for what you've done. I'll never forgive either of you." With those final words, I handed the villains over to the officers. Afterward, my son and his wife went to trial for the abuse they inflicted on their child. The lawyer, one of the former students, said,
Nancy did a great job gathering all the evidence. They won't be able to weasel their way out of this.
"It looks like they'll face severe punishment, and I'll be gaining custody of my grandchild." The alumni have also offered their continued support, saying,
"We'll help you collect the damages and child support whenever you need."
Jason and Amy will likely live a miserable life of poverty, struggling to repay their debts while being bossed around by intimidating men. As for Emma, she's now living with me. Thanks to a regular and healthy diet, she's returned to a fit and healthy body. She's in middle school now and has joined the basketball team she always wanted to be part of, becoming one of the star players.
I want to go to the same university as those alumni who saved me. And I'll eat Grandma's cooking at the cafeteria.
Her beaming smile is the greatest nourishment for my soul. I'm not ready to retire just yet. I'll keep going strong. How did you like today's story? Don't forget to hit subscribe. See you in the next video.